I think that relationships between gay men are very challenging insofar as we can basically decide very easily because we tend not to have the connections with each other like children, for example, that, you know, well, actually this is not worth it, I don't like this, and we just move away. But with Greg, he was a very conservative man, and so basically he made a decision that he and I were going to be together, and that was it. Sunday mornings were always a big event in the family home because of Greg's pancakes. Everything he did beautifully. So, you know, but the kids used to sort of queue up in their pyjamas for hours to get these bloody pancakes that always took, you know, because he had to have ones that rose in a bowl somewhere or other in the airing cupboard overnight or something. And, you know, nothing was whipped up out of a packet. And it was a huge thing every Sunday morning was the pancakes with the bacon and the maple syrup and the fried bananas. And, you know, the kids adored him, as did I. His workmates started complaining about him coughing at work all the time, so he went off to the doctor. He came from a medical family, so he wasn't sort of traumatised by health things, as I have always been, because he'd been surrounded by them his whole life. And I went to collect him from the hospital. We'd gone for tests, and he said, they are saying they might have to remove my lung. And I just about drove the car off the road. I mean, this is the first that Greg had said that there was anything wrong, you know. Anyway, he already had cancer at that stage, so that was 2005. I'd been on it, Greg, to have a civil union for, you know, as long as the bill had been in place. And in fact, I used to, I don't know, drop all sorts of hints, you know, because we'd been together for a decade, basically, at this stage, more than a decade. So Greg actually went out and bought me a ring, which is this ring which I now wear on that hand. But when he came home, having been told that the cancer had now spread to his brain and that it was only a matter of months, possibly weeks, he woke me up at about 3 o'clock in the morning and said, these are the exact words he used, "I think we should get married." We got married in the garden at Northcote Point where we lived, and then we walked from there to the engine room, which was Greg's favourite eatery. And I have a photo still of us walking in conservative Northcote Point, hand in hand down Queen Street as we went to the restaurant. Greg by this stage was completely bald because of the chemotherapy and quite emaciated, but you know, I realised that for him that was a way of bringing people together before he died. People actually don't know, well, I'm generalising grossly, but not a lot of people actually know the language to use, you know. You know, even to the extent of, you know, how do you feel about Greg dying? Or, you know, it's now been 6 months, how are you feeling? I mean, people don't, so what tends to happen is that people don't tend to talk about it at all because they're scared that they're going to upset you or what have you. So I made a conscious point of talking about what had happened with people, and I think that was of relief to them because then they could say or ask what they wanted to or say what they wanted to. But also because I had no intention of just excluding him from conversation. The counsellor once said to me, "Are you ready to let Greg go?" And I said, absolutely not. I still have people expecting that, you know, 3 years after Greg died, that's like it's something that you get over and you move on from. I don't think that's the case, actually. I think the people that you've lost stay very much as part of who one is and part of one's life. You just get different perspectives on what happened over time. I've had probably in the last year more intense and meaningful conversations with people than I've had in the whole rest of my life, because people actually have revealed things about what has happened in their own lives, seeking advice and just someone to talk to who they know will empathise with them. So in a way, that's a very rich reward and very humbling that people feel that they can talk to me about those things. Gay men who want to need to set up better networks and vehicles for discussing things in their lives that really matter. And, you know, at the end of the day, we're all blokes, and blokes are not very good at talking about personal stuff. I actually rediscovered my family during Greg's death because I wasn't particularly close to my family. These people hadn't lived outside of Nelson, but they were so supportive and very loving and accepting, and he was a part of the family. I can't imagine how I would have got through these periods of grief without the support of other people. In some ways, I wish that the way that we lived our ordinary daily lives reflected that richness and that level of support, not just at periods of great trauma.